Honey chamomile, cinnamon chamomile, regular chamomile, lozenges, creams, lotions, you name it, you've seen it. It tastes delicious, and you can grow your own medicinals right here on the Backyard Gardens podcast.
To have a good harvest, one must plant good seeds and must also use the right kind of fertilizer. The carrots have grown large and firm. How good they will taste.
Welcome to the Backyard Gardens podcast, where we talk about all things gardening. We are your hosts, Ben in Batavia, and you can find me gardening in the country.
And you'll find me gardening in the city. Get ready as we dig deep into this
wonderful world of gardening, where we learn to grow and grow for change. Okay, everybody, before we get started, I just want to say this is a new thing for us. We are not doctors, and we do not use these products or any kind of plant as a medicinal without consulting a medical professional. Some of these can interact with medications and diagnosed or undiagnosed conditions. Fair enough?
Wait.
Got it.
Exactly.
And if you'd like to support the podcast, link below, Patreon, 2 episodes a month, exclusive to you. So now, chamomile, what does it do? It does a lot of things, actually. I'm just going to run through the list of what it does, and then we're going to kind of break down how to grow it, how it likes to grow, what you can use it for as far as in the garden and your body, and then how to prepare it in that way. But again, this is for entertainment purposes only. This is not meant to diagnose anything. So you can use it for a number of things. You can use it to aid in sleep, anxiety, stomach issues, muscle spasms, and eczema, and the list kind of goes on. But as I did my research, I found that a lot of it was like kind of out there. You know, there was some cancer mentioned and stuff like that. And I don't feel comfortable saying anything about that. But it is important to know that this one in particular has been used since the Egyptians, Greeks, and Romans to treat the conditions that I just mentioned. So it's interesting.
Yeah. And I found the same things that you found, especially as well as some of those things that were a little bit out there, maybe a little bit more, making more of a promise than we were comfortable even sharing for entertainment purposes.
Yeah. And I'm not really comfortable sharing any kind of promise, but there's that. But you can, and if you have never seen chamomile before, it's a small daisy-like flower. And what that means is it has petals on it, like distinct oval-shaped petals. It's white flower or white petals with a yellow center. It's very easy to grow, and it gets to about 1 to 2 feet high and about 1 foot wide. So it's a nice compact plant. Very
delicate looking.
Yeah. Very delicate.
They aren't the easiest to start from seeds, but kind of what herb-like plant is. But once they kind of get going, they can run wild. So this is one of a few that we'll do as a part of this series for these mini-sodes. So for those that are listening, you already know that, Ben. And so speaking of, I have some notes on when to grow it, right? So it is something that you want to transplant out if you've started it indoors, or if you're buying it, you want to put it out once you're past your last frost, if you get frost, right? So it doesn't necessarily like the colder or freezing or frosty temps. It is something that can self-seed, so keep that in mind. We'll talk a little bit in this series around kind of saving seeds and things. But if you're going to sow it outdoors directly, if you have a longer season maybe, you can do that. You can definitely do that, but again, waiting till after that frost. Indoors, it probably is going to take around 8, even 12 weeks to get ready. I started mine a bit late this year, so we'll see how it turns out. But I had pretty good success last year with starting them indoors and then transplanting them out.
I didn't.
Let's see. No? Yeah.
No, I've never been able to start them by seed ever.
Well, it's a volume thing too, though, right? So I've been able to start them by seed a couple of years, but your seed pack has 25. And based on what we're talking about and how we're talking about using them, you're going to probably want more than that, right?
Yeah.
I'm okay with moving on to kind of this next block, and I'm going to take a couple of the first, if that's okay.
Go ahead. Yeah.
All right. So this is probably the most interesting thing I found, because I didn't realize there were 2 distinct types of chamomile. right? So there is a German variety, which is considered an annual in most zones. And I've made an asterisk by this because the only way I can remember German versus the Roman variety was German was noted as annual, and then it could have a bitter taste if you use it for tea. And then Roman was noted as a perennial, which has a slightly sweeter taste. And it's, quote, perfect for chamomile tea. So I imagine people use either or both when it comes to kind of making the teas. But those were the two things that I kept coming back to because I was trying to, study this. If you're watching the video, you can see I have more paper than I've printed out all year, right? But those are two things to note. So if you're buying seed packets, and when I started looking online, kind of looking back on what I had previously purchased, it was very clear in the packaging. They note one versus the other. But
I've only ever grown German. That's all I've ever grown.
I think I've only ever grown German as well.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to take this one and I'll pass it back to you. The size differs based on the type of plant as well. If it's the German I have noted, it could reach, anywhere from 2 feet. Then Roman I'm going to take that back. I think I've grown Roman because I've grown chamomile that gets about 6-8 inches high. So basically the Roman variety is a smaller version of the plant where the German variety can get much taller, if you will. And they both can get kind of bushy.
When I grow the German variety, I get the classic flavor that you get when you buy the teas and everything. That's the classic flavor I've gotten. It's bigger. It's very prolific and for what I'm harvesting it for. I grew it for a couple years and I'm actually almost out of my flowers. And that's why I'm kind of on a push to grow them again because I need more. But it's, they love full sun. So, but you still... When we say full sun, if you live somewhere hot, you want to protect it from an afternoon heat. Yeah. Your afternoon suns. But, and it grow from zones 2A to 9A. So go grow some chamomile everywhere. You can grow it. Booyah. And pests aren't really an issue. Okay. I've grown them for years. I grew it for years. I haven't grown it for the past couple years, but that's changing as of this year. Never had a pest on them, but you can get aphids and thripes, and you can use it as a cucumber beetle deterrent. So you can plant it near your cucumbers. Yeah, you know how I feel about that stuff, but I'm just stating data here. Yeah, so the pests are a non-issue, basically, is the moral of the story here. And I know a lot of people freak out about aphids, but... It was very questionable when I did the research that aphids would even be an issue for this.
Do you find generally with herbs, they seem to...
I never get an issue.
Yeah, be noted as kind of what repels some of the pests, some of the bugs that we, maybe the bad bugs. So I have, confession, grown chamomile a few different years, and it's going to fold into this next item. I didn't really know when to harvest it. So, it was so embarrassing. But now I do, because as I looked into details for this episode, so a few notes here, you want to harvest. Some places say near full bloom. So when the flowers, as like many flowers, they start kind of balled up, then they open up. So once you get to near full bloom, and then others say that you actually want to let it bloom, but you got to get to it before those petals drop, right? So there is kind of a race to that based on how many you may have planted. And then I thought this was interesting because it totally makes sense once I read it aloud. You don't want to harvest it if there's been, like, first thing in the morning, if there's dew, or after a rain, because your ultimate goal in many of these things is you're going to start with a dried kind of plant, if you will, for what you're going to use it for. So you don't want to take it off of the plant and it's damp. You want to let the plant kind of let it dry naturally and then harvest it. And for this one, and I'm making this distinction because once you get into the other episodes that we're doing as a part of this series, you're harvesting the actual kind of the flower head. So you're just snipping it versus kind of the rest of the plant.
Yeah, so when I harvested mine, I harvested my, I usually don't do things like this. I'd love to, but in the garden, it doesn't always work. I harvested every Tuesday afternoon, and I would go out there and I would clean off every single flower on there. It didn't matter. If it had opened, it was coming off the plant. That was my rule. And I would go out there and you can use scissors, but what I would do is I would put the bud. If you're watching the video, you're getting a bonus because you're gonna see it. I would put the plant right above my 2 fingers underneath, and I would just pop it up,
pop it off,
and I would kind of do it like that, and I would just go through like this and pull them all out, and I would have handfuls. And if the petals were off, I didn't care.
Yeah,
I just because over that year. Over the growing season, it all kind of evens out. You're going to have some, and look, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, when you go to buy the tea, I guarantee you that it is not all the best, okay? Whatever you're going to do is going to be way better than what you buy at the store.
Yeah, and all of those have not been harvested at the optimal time, right?
Yeah.
So,
so you want to use the flowers and leaves if you so desire. The one thing I'll say, the reason why I say if you so desire, because if you leave the leaves, you'll get more flowers. So you don't want to necessarily harvest a whole plant.
But I love this idea of having this routine. You know, you're speaking to I want to be organized, but I'm not heart. But that, like, I don't want to have to look for a pen during the episode, but I'm mentally making a note of every Tuesday. I'm just going to join you every Tuesday. Every
Tuesday, go harvest it. That's it. That's the deal. Every time you listen to a mini-sode, boom, harvest.
Come on, somebody.
So you can use them to make teas, tinctures, or a topical cream. So if you remember, we went back and we were talking about, I mentioned that it can treat eczema. I'm not going to use the word cure, but it can help to treat eczema. Well, a tea is not really going to help you with that, but a topical cream will.
Yeah.
And I've made all of these before. So tinctures are really easy. You just take your herbs, you put them in a mason jar, you fill it with vodka. So you want to do about 1/3 of a mason jar and then the rest with vodka. And then you let it sit in a dark cabinet for about 6 to 8 weeks and just shake it every once in a while. Don't shake it. It doesn't matter. It's all going to, and that'll just kind of leach everything out of it. So you can do that. And then when you're done, you take it and you strain it all out. And you're going to strain it through a cheesecloth, and you take the cheesecloth and you squeeze it as hard as you can, and that'll get everything out of it, all those good nutrients and stuff out of it. And then you're going to put it into a dark little bottle and stick it in a cabinet, and make sure you label it. And then you can just use it. You use like 1 teaspoon, 1 tablespoon at a time. You can mix it in water. You can put it right under your tongue, whatever you want. And it's going to have a little bit of a vodka flavor, but it's not like you're going to get hammered off of it. So, we've used it for all kinds of things.
So,
teas.
Wait, before you go on, I was struggling with the use of vodka in this way and not the traditional way that I'm accustomed to using it. But just, I want to make sure I understand so I don't have to look this up. When you're straining it, that's a part, that liquid is a part of what's going to be in the tincture, right?
That liquid is the tincture.
Yeah. Okay. And so then you're squeezing all of the goodness from the petals and the flower itself out into that as well.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Anybody who makes pot brownies, they do the same thing. You squeeze everything you can. You get every last little bit out of it.
Got it.
And you'll just squeeze it until it's dry. And then, you'll put it in there. And then teas, straightforward. You dry it. You can use it as a loose leaf tea. You can buy tea bags. And maybe, actually not maybe, we're going to add to the Amazon list empty tea bags. So you can do tea bags. And then what I would do is I'd sit down, I'd staple tea bags. I'd fill them up and staple them. Boom. Put a tablespoon or 2 in, whatever you want. Doesn't matter. It does not have to be technical, people. I'm telling you. Now, topical creams are a little bit more difficult. And I'm not really going to give you the ratio, but what I'll give you is what you need. So you're going to need the herb. You're going to need beeswax, and you're going to need some kind of vitamin E oil. And what that does is, and because what we're going to do is you're going to break all that down. You're going to get everything out of the flour, and then you're going to melt the beeswax and mix it with the vitamin E oil. And then the ratio you use will determine how the consistency in which it'll be. And you can buy tins, empty tins, and you can pour it in, stuff like that. So you'll pour it in just like a liquid, and it'll dry, and it can either be as hard as you want or as soft as you want based on that. I may do a video later on about that. I don't make too many of them, but that's something that we may do. So just know that those are the ingredients that you need, and then you can move forward from that if you choose so. And you would just apply that on the affected area, And I mean, the way I look at it is, if it doesn't work, so what? What does it matter? Like, what have you done? You know what I mean? You've learned how to make something that could be a medicine, and you can apply this to many other herbs, these techniques, but it can still, it can still help. So
yeah, a part of this episode and this series in general, like, we want to grab your attention about a particular plant or a particular herb, right? And we want you to be able to say, I may be interested in using this for more than a pretty flower or a pretty plant. And then the intention is for you to look into this on your own, right? As well as, again, consult a medical professional. And so we don't want to give away all the secret sauce because there's still clearly more episodes of Grey's Anatomy that are running. And, I don't know when they're going to cover off on this topic. And so until then, again, consult your people. But Ben he gave me a little bit of grace here because I had to take some extra time to prepare for this episode or these episodes, these next few. But this was really a great learning experience for me. We have fought over herbs and the importance of herbs in the garden over these last 3 years. We, as in Ben and I. Yeah. And I'm coming around. And in part, it's just I just didn't realize the benefit from many of them, or even if you go back to taking aside medicinal purposes, just even the benefits and the addition that it can make to a meal. Like, I didn't make that connection. Right.
It's hard to.
Yeah. And so, and then you kind of have that battle of like the winter harvest. So that's why that's going to be one of the key things we cover off on it with each of these plants. Because we don't want you to miss the window. Right.
No. And I mean, we've specifically picked for this series, like, fairly common either stuff you've seen as a medicinal or stuff that you would grow already. So, tea is definitely like, that's a thing, and who doesn't like a good cup of chamomile tea? I just went backpacking. We were out in the woods for 5 days and I stopped at the store. I was like, crap, I forgot my chamomile tea. So I had to stop and buy it. It's $5 for a box of chamomile tea. $5.
And now, look, based on some of the other things I'm watching, you never know what they're cutting that stuff with either.
Well, and see, that's a thing too. And you're going to, spoiler alert for other stuff, but the vitamin and natural market, I don't know how to, natural medicinal market is not regulated. So you could have anything in there. There's one thing that we do make, we get CBD chamomile tea. So you're kind of doing two things at once with that. So there's all these different things you can do with it. And it's really important that that this stuff is out there because, did you know that aspirin is just a synthetic form of a bark?
No, I did not.
Yeah. So it's I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's a willow tree bark. I think it's the white willow. And it's just a synthetic form of that. That's all it is. There's a drug that they give cancer patients. I can't remember the name of it. My wife will be able to tell you, but it's a synthetic form of marijuana, cannabis, because it helps treat. So there's all of these medicines that, not all of them, but a majority of medicines we take are just synthetic forms, which do make it more concentrated. Now, let me not trip. But it makes it more concentrated form of it, but to treat something. So with enough chamomile, you could knock out an elephant. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how much it would take, but so these are all things that you can use for yourself and your body and grow in your yard and make you feel like you're making a difference.
Yeah. And I think that it wouldn't be me if we didn't round this out with, and it's pretty.
It is pretty.
So
it is pretty. And one tip I will give about growing chamomiles, what I did is I planted it in a pot next to my garden because it can self-seed. I didn't want it to self-seed into my garden. So I just had like a little, a couple gallon pot sitting right there and I had it growing in there. So that's something you can do, or you can put it in a place where it could self-seed and freely grow all you want. But that's what I did. I think it self-seeded for 3 years before it finally crapped out on me.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
So, okay, everybody, we are coming up on time. So next week is going to be the patrons only episode. So if you would like to hear, it's a good one too. So, sorry everybody. If you'd like to hear about that, you can come check it out.
If they'd like to hear about the good one,
the good one, yeah. So, go check it out. Become a patron, help support us, and grow some chamomile. It can be grown from zones 2A to 9A. There's no excuse.
Oh yeah, see ya. See ya.
We want everybody to have a garden, and we're going to give you a chance to win free seeds every month.
Head over to backyardgardenstv.com and enter your email address to be entered in all of our giveaways.
Good luck. I hope you're enjoying the show today. If you could do us a simple favor and share this show or any one of our other shows on your social media, it would help us greatly. All we want is to help people grow in their gardens, and this is the one thing that we can do to get more people exposed to gardening and help them be successful in their gardens. We hope you enjoyed today's show. Please follow us on YouTube at Backyard Gardens TV,
Instagram at Backyard Gardens TV, over on our website, backyardgardenstv.com, and then we have Patreon at Backyard Gardens.
And don't forget to check out our links below to help the show. Thank you so much for joining us as we learn to grow and grow for change. Cut.
Now you know why people feel like celebrating at harvest time.
All over the world, people have feasting and good times when the crops have been gathered in.
Hey everybody, thanks for checking out the Backyard Gardens podcast.
If you like what we're doing and you want to continue to support the podcast, head over to our Patreon page to sign up.
You can also make a one-time donation using PayPal. Both of these links are in the description.
With your support, we can continue growing and helping others in their gardens. See ya!
If you guys want some Backyard Gardens gear,
go to the link below and check out our t-shirts, mugs, pint glasses, and other gear.
All purchases go towards helping to support the show, so thank you so much in advance, and we hope you enjoy. We want everybody to have a garden, and we're going to give you a chance to win free seeds every month.
Head over to backyardgardenstv.com and enter your email address to be entered in all of our giveaways.
Good luck.
We want you to be a part of our gardening community. DM us a picture of your garden at Backyard Gardens TV on Instagram, and we will share it with our listeners.